You are the most unfuckable, repulsive creature. Sad. And as we've aged, we've realized that you want to conduct yourself differently.
H3H3 Productions are the most important YouTubers of the last few years.
You are a vile slime of a human that nobody will ever want you.
Why would you think that was a good idea to say? He sounds like such a prick.
In a way, I do feel bad for Ethan, but at the same time, he specifically courted this audience of freaks.
That's why I call it like the cult of outrage, because it does feel more like a cult. If it's not rational.
And now it just sounds like Ethan's talking about himself here.
H3H3 Productions is a name that has been well known among the YouTube community for years, with a history on the website spanning over a decade. But at this point, it has also been a name that is reviled by many for half of that time. The once beloved couple, who made their name making commentary videos making fun of insane trends and criticizing shady behavior, has now become characterized by politically charged podcasts, alleged hypocrisy, and an overall sense of bitterness and cynicism that many see as the complete opposite of their beginnings. For many, Ethan Klein went from a champion of free speech and integrity to someone who isn't opposed to using slimy tactics against people he doesn't like, and morally grandstands about topics he knows nothing about. And while their online presence remains massive, I don't think it's a stretch to say that this has been the widespread view of him for years. Aside from their friend iDubbbz, H3H3 are one of the most well-known and fitting examples of how people can fall completely out of favor with the internet solely due to perceived hypocrisy and not due to any banning, serious crimes, or quitting. So how did we get to this point? I want to explore all the controversies, the highs and the lows, that led to the present day H3, and what can lead to an audience becoming so attached and so personally hurt by a creator changing. Buckle up, because this is the story of H3H3, from Revered to Reviled. Ethan Klein was born in California in 1985, and Ela, formerly Ela Hackman, was born in Israel in 1987. The two met at a Holocaust memorial in Israel in 2007, while Ethan was on a birthright trip, and Ela was serving in the Israel Defense Forces. Ethan describes that while he was battling anxiety and at his lowest point, he still felt compelled to talk to his future wife.
And I didn't know what compelled me, but I felt like that was an appropriate time to approach you. Something about the Holocaust Museum was just like, this is appropriate.
Yeah.
This is the right time to say what up.
Yep.
I think I went up to her and I said something like, how about all these Jews, huh? Am I right?
Really? I don't remember.
No, I didn't. I think I said something like, they had it coming, don't you think? Something like that.
They reflect on living in Israel in a small apartment for a few years, which is when their channel was started. In May of 2011, Ela had a college course that required a video project. And this project, a piece about addiction titled Chocolate, was the first video collaboration between the two, and was uploaded to the H3H3 Productions channel, named from the H's of Ela's name and the E's of Ethan's name, with 3's replacing the E's. They would continue to create videos for schoolwork, but would also create projects for fun, such as skits that came from a place of, quote, absurd and embarrassing humor, as well as EXE videos, which consisted of weird and trippy edits. They were able to amass a small audience, but their channel never really went anywhere at the time. They got married in 2012, and their popularity would really start to pick up in August of 2013, when they started posting commentary content, in which Ethan watched cringy viral videos and provided comedic reactions, sometimes involving sketches and having Ela on camera as well. They'd gathered a moderate following when they posted their first reaction to kissing pranks, which really skyrocketed the amount of eyes on their channel.
Oh, I can't believe this. How many views does this have, Ela?
Millions.
2 million.
They reached 100,000 subscribers by March of 2015 and reacted to a wide range of videos, mainly consisting of prank channels, TV shows, and other weird or interesting balls of cringe. In 2015, they moved back to the United States, and after a short time in California, they moved to New York, as Ela was offered a job as a producer for the JonTron show. They were able to reach 2 million subscribers in 2016, experiencing massive growth at the time. It was at this time that they were sued by Matt Haas, the creator of a video they had reacted to, for copyright infringement, despite the fact that the video constituted fair use. This prompted many online personalities, notably even those who had been criticized by Ethan and Hila, to donate to a GoFundMe started by Philip DeFranco. And with the help of the support, after an almost 2-year-long struggle, the court finally ruled in H3's favor, which was, as I'm sure we've all heard many times, a landmark case to strengthen fair use on YouTube. They then introduced the FUPA Fund, or Fair Use Protection Account, which would contain the money donated to help their case, as well as be maintained in the future for fair use related issues, though this would later become the subject of controversy. And this leads us to the creation of the H3 podcast in 2017. Ethan and Hila had become solidified as YouTube legends. They would continue uploading on H3H3 Productions, which would go on to reach over 6 million subscribers for the next few years, but videos became less and less frequent as they transitioned to podcasting until they stopped completely in August of 2020. But near that ending is one of the most controversial sagas of their career, and something that turned many of the YouTube community at the time against them. Three of H3H3 Productions' final uploads made up the Content Nuke series targeting Keemstar, following a beef between the two regarding Keemstar's speculations that funds generated by the H3H3 DLC pack in the game Payday 2 were not being allocated to the FUPA Fund like they were supposed to be. These claims originated from a now deleted video made by Mudahar of Some Ordinary Gamers, and Keemstar covered them on Drama Alert. Following this, on May 19, 2020, H3H3 Productions posted Content Nuke Keemstar, in which he brings up many issues from the past which he believes support the overall point that Keemstar is a plague on the website.
I want to bring you up to speed quickly with all of Keemstar's transgressions of the past before we move on to his illustrious future.
As indicated by this clip, much of this video is a retelling of Keemstar's misdeeds in the past, such as falsely accusing an elderly streamer of being a pedophile, saying he couldn't wait to report on Total Biscuit's death, who did eventually die of colorectal cancer, having several questionable interactions with Etika before his untimely suicide, and more. Of course, these are all horrible things, and Keemstar has rightfully received immense criticism for all of them. However, there are many portions of the video that internet users had a problem with. Firstly, as many note, these are instances from the past that Keemstar has already been called out for, and the video does not offer many new points.
Ethan's basically just compiled all the big Keemstar douchebag moments and put them into this video compendium. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure there's a lot of people that weren't familiar with some of the shit he's done in his past, and Ethan just brought it to their attention. It's just for me personally, since I love to keep up with internet drama and squabbles between internet people, I would have liked to see something new from Ethan.
Additionally, Keemstar had appeared on the H3 podcast previously, at which time they spoke amicably, and H3 did not seem to have any problem with his many misdeeds.
Do people still pretend this isn't, like, insane to fucking say something like that?
Like, they hate him?
Like, why would you have him on the show if you fucking hate him and then, like, not bring that up?
Some have implied that these criticisms didn't actually matter to Ethan until Keemstar had wronged him, and that he only brought them up when it was convenient to him. Another large criticism was that many people saw Ethan's bringing up Etika as him weaponizing a tragic suicide as a point to use against Keemstar in a YouTube drama video. Additionally, the late YouTuber's mother and girlfriend stated that they did not blame Keemstar for his death, which led to many H3 fans to come out and criticize them or tell them that they were wrong.
Imagine your ex-boyfriend dies tragically nearly a year ago after a successful fucking suicide attempt, and you now have to be subjected to prepubescent pieces of shit who watch one guy's YouTube video and feel the need to tell you that you're wrong about why he killed himself.
Overall, it seems that people felt it was a distasteful topic and was not needed to prove that Keemstar was bad, and caused unnecessary conflict for people who certainly did not need it at the time. Additionally, people pointed to Ethan's coverage of Swatistic's appearance on Drama Alert. Swatistic, or Tyler Barris, swatted a man named Andrew Finch, an incident that resulted in the 28-year-old father's unfortunate death. Keemstar had Barris on Drama Alert in order to get a confession of guilt, which he obtained almost immediately. He then cooperated with law enforcement to get an arrest, and created a fund to pay for the funeral of Finch. Ethan accused Keemstar of using this incident for views, and of platforming a swatter. Many criticized him for this accusation and believed he maliciously reappropriated the situation. The last and most widely covered criticism at the time was Ethan's targeting of Keemstar's sponsor G Fuel, which led to his fans successfully spamming the company demanding that they drop him.
In Ethan's Content Nuke, he mentions Keemstar's sponsor G Fuel 8 times, constantly saying things like, "Why is G Fuel sponsoring you? They shouldn't be sponsoring you. This is kind of fucked fucked up that you still have sponsors. How is this possible? So by implying these things, Ethan ignited his fan base to spam G Fuel, forcing them to drop Keemstar, which happened. G Fuel did drop Keemstar.
Many people had a problem with going after a YouTuber's livelihood in an exposed video, no matter who the YouTuber was, because of the precedent it set.
And a lot of people say, yeah, it is kind of fucked up, but it's Keemstar, so we're fine with it. And you shouldn't be. Yeah, Keemstar's done a ton of fucked up shit that definitely deserves consequences, but taking it into your hands as like the arbiter of justice to spam his advertisers to get him to drop them, you don't see how that could be used against you?
An important thing to note about these criticisms is that they are not coming from Keemstar fans, but rather, the people coming out and saying these things actually hate him and think he should face consequences for the things he's done. It seems that despite widespread hatred for Keemstar at the time, many neutral viewers or even people on Ethan's side thought that he went about the drama in the wrong way. This marked the beginning of many fans turning on H3H3 and led to a substantial drop in their subscribers and Twitter followers, something that they have largely not recovered from to this day. Additionally, many of their sponsors were targeted by Keemstar's fans in a similar way to G Fuel and ended up dropping them themselves.
I love and appreciate the member support. It's so helpful at this time when we're losing pretty much, we've probably lost like 80% of our sponsors, and the direct support is the future of this channel, I think. So we really thank our members.
Overall, while the vast majority of people supported the sentiment that Keemstar has committed grave misdeeds, there are many of those that would still criticize the way Ethan went about his videos. 2 more videos were posted in this thread, as well as countless discussions on Ethan's podcast regarding Keemstar. But at this point, the majority of the damage had been done to both sides. Now we are fully into the podcast era, though it had been running for years prior, before the H3H3 Productions channel became defunct. And there are a plethora of controversies and moments that got Ethan in trouble stemming from this podcast. Possibly the first major controversy to stem from it, and really one that is analogous to Ethan's career as a whole, is the deleting of Jordan Peterson's appearances on the podcast, and Ethan's apparent complete 180 regarding the issue. Jordan Peterson appeared twice on the podcast, in which Ethan calls him wonderful, states that he is helping people, and plugs his book.
Today's guest is the great and wonderful and one of our all-time favorite guests, Dr. Jordan Peterson, who has graced us with his presence yet again.
However, they would later delete these episodes and have seemingly spent the last few years brutally criticizing him at any chance they get. Ethan talked with Jordan Peterson about the quote-unquote cult of outrage that politics has become, and many believe that his current behavior would fit that description perfectly.
That's why I call it like the cult of outrage, because it does feel more like a cult. People don't really of outrage. They're addicted to outrage, and they don't really think about if it's not rational.
Ethan kept talking about how sides like to demonize the other side, and politics has become way too divisive, and now it just sounds like Ethan's talking about himself here.
As many have stated, it would not be a problem for him to no longer agree with Jordan Peterson's politics, but his behavior is beyond a simple political disagreement.
Like, to go from all that to then just relentlessly attacking this guy on your show nonstop is pretty crazy. And I'm not saying Ethan can't change his opinion on Jordan. Like, I understand if he doesn't agree with some of the stuff he says anymore, and he's not a fan of his, but it just seems like you're a backstabber.
Another controversy involving the podcast came when Ethan remarked that someone should, quote, bomb the building holding a conference of the NRA, or National Rifle Association, before eventually walking back the remark and stating that it was a joke.
So there was a big protest outside the NRA meeting, which was good. Do we have any insight into what they're actually talking about there at the NRA meeting that's today in Texas? Someone should bomb that building. Okay,
Don't.
I'll roll that back.
Roll that back immediately.
Everything but violence.
Many were critical of this remark and thought it contradicted Ethan's stance against violence, specifically gun violence, but seeing as they claimed it was a joke, both sides were pretty much at an impasse. Another instance of a risque joke came when Ethan remarked that if there was another Holocaust, he hoped that Ben Shapiro, the conservative pundit who is also Jewish, would be the first in line for the treatment. He also ponders the prospect of Ben being the last to go, wondering which would be better. This remark resulted in a week-long suspension from the website, and Ethan would take to Twitter to claim that the reason he was banned was because white supremacists were defending Ben Shapiro. The incident left a bad taste in the mouth of many for several reasons, and people who did not support censorship didn't exactly express remorse for the podcast suspension, solely because Ethan is a supporter of that same quote-unquote cancel culture. This would also relate to Ethan apparently celebrating the YouTuber LoFi's ban, something that he would deny doing, despite holding an awards show celebrating that very ban, and making many statements online making fun of him.
Some people were saying that you're celebrating his ban.
How am I celebrating?
Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
So, Account Ban of the Year, this is a huge prestigious award. For me, it's got to be between Dr. Disrespect and LoFi.
LoFi's come for me. He called me a piggy a bunch of times.
Yeah, well, you won't be doing it now. Account Ban of the Year 2020. The winner, by a very close margin, is LoFi, who lost it all.
Honestly, there are countless more instances to talk about regarding Ethan saying very questionable things that seem to conflict what he proclaims himself to be, such as when he laughed at QT Cinderella, a streamer, when she was crying about being sexualized by a fellow streamer.
Why? Why?
What is going on with you?
I'm sorry, don't mind me.
If you are able to look at women who are not selling themselves or benefiting off of being seen sexually.
And many other instances that I honestly just don't feel like covering. But with all these controversies and things that Ethan has been criticized for, it's clear that there is a very large and grating disconnect between the H3H3 of old and who they are today. So let's explore the most glaring differences and why people call Ethan a hypocrite. One of the largest reasons for H3H3 being called hypocritical is that they now grandstand about being edgy and call for action against those who say those types of things, but also engage in the behavior themselves. An often cited reference for these criticisms is a clip from iDubbbz's appearance on the podcast, in which Ethan implies that he was simply immature back in the old days and has evolved past that now.
Well, I think people have the same problem with me. Is it the same problem with you? Is that we both used to be like edgy comedians and we were a part of the larger commentary community. And as we've aged, we've realized that, you want to conduct yourself differently.
Well, when you start interacting
caring
with the actual world and you're not in your bedroom creating sitting in your bedroom for 19 hours creating a hit piece on someone, basically, and you actually interact with human beings, you sort of realize that isn't really real life.
Well, that may be true for some people, but Ethan has always been older than the average YouTuber, and was as old as 33 while still making those immature jokes. Also, he is certainly not above making edgy remarks these days. The aforementioned jokes Ethan made regarding the NRA and Ben Shapiro perfectly exemplify this notion, as well as his many insults directed at Jordan Peterson and many other political opponents. The argument can even be made that their content is more edgy now, considering that rather than making fun of cringy and relatable things, his current remarks are venomous takedowns of opponents, often involving violence or physical appearances. For Ethan to state that he has evolved and matured past his old self, which in turn implies that his old audience is immature by extension, while still engaging in the same types of behaviors or even worse things, is seen by many as hypocritical as well as extremely condescending, and is one of the largest reasons many old H3 viewers have turned on him in a similar manner to iDubbbz. Additionally, Ethan has been called a hypocrite for other remarks towards LoFi, including calling his jokes about having and using guns truly disturbing. In response to this, many would point to the jokes he had made in the past involving guns, including one of the last videos posted to H3H3 Productions, Shootin' with iDubbbz.
Alright, this is what they don't allow you to do at traditional gun ranges.
Oh! Take that, Joe. City Council.
Oh god, I fucking hate the City Council.
But even going along with his remarks about maturing since then, he has still made many statements about violence and weapons in the past few years, including the clip about the NRA. One final instance in which Ethan was accused of being a hypocrite was when he jokingly referred to Gabby Hanna on the Frenemies podcast, introducing a hypothetical awards show for Mental Breakdown of the Year.
Let's say hypothetically, greatest metal breakdown.
I don't think they're gonna show up.
Well, let's say, but they might. Let's say Gabby Hanna is nominated for greatest mental breakdown. She might show up to accept.
No comments.
And I mean, that would be great. I would present her. And then I can see us getting a little argument during her acceptance. And then we could play her off. We can play the music that's like, okay, play her off.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I wish her well.
No comment.
At the time, many were already making videos regarding this supposed breakdown. And for Ethan to have brought up a YouTuber's suicide 2 years prior as a point against Keemstar, then go on to make remarks like this, felt hypocritical to some. Similarly to the last segment, as H3 content has become increasingly more toxic and negative, there are countless things that could be referred to when covering hypocrisy. Instead of droning on about all of them, let's look at one of the main reasons people attribute to these new negative changes. One association that can be made from the shift in public opinion surrounding H3H3 is with the shift of their content becoming increasingly more political. Ethan Klein has always expressed himself to be aligned with the left politically, but the old H3H3 content was not political in nature, and they would clown on people from both sides of the aisle. However, they did make a decent amount of content making fun of BuzzFeed and quote-unquote SJW content.
And I'm gonna make a video about it because it offends me and I think the whole world needs to conform to what I think is racist and not racist.
As well as associate with JonTron and PewDiePie when they were involved in political conflicts. From these instances, it's clear that while he exhibited leftist politics in both the past and present, the way that he has expressed his opinions and interacted with those who may not have the same views as him has changed greatly.
So apparently, so many people, when they found out that Trump won for presidency, crashed the Canadian immigration site because they just wanted to move to Canada so bad. And to those people, I'd like to say this: you fucking cowards. So your candidate lost. And what are you gonna do? Fucking jump ship? He won fair and square. You're gonna leave your problems for us to deal with, and you're gonna go to Canada, which by the way is a perfect country too. I think you're sure to find that out once you get there. Stop being such fucking cowards and pussies and just own the fact that we lost. The spirit of this show is not serious policy debate. It is bringing righteous justice to these shitbags. That's it.
Not only that, but the extremely toxic things he says regarding political opponents and topics have turned many people away who probably didn't care about his specific political views in the first place. As I'm sure most of you know, and as was shown in the previous clip, in late 2021, Ethan also started a political podcast with everyone's favorite leftist Hassan Piker, which did not help the perception of him among people who felt negative sentiments about his political shift.
What is the leftovers? Listen, I've had enough of you guys complaining that you don't want me to talk about politics, so I went and made a whole fucking show about it.
However, along with the usual disdain from old viewers who did not favor political content, H3H3 would actually receive large amounts of hate from leftists and Hassan fans during the drama that would eventually end the Leftovers podcast. Ethan and Hassan had previously argued about things like communism and the conflict between Israel and Palestine, both of which led some H3H3 fans, and clearly a lot of Hassan fans, to take up a less favorable view of Ethan. Specifically following a Leftovers episode centering around the Israel-Palestine conflict, Ethan would break down in tears seeing the death of an infant, but did not completely condemn Israel or justify the slayings of Israeli citizens 100%, probably due in part to being Israeli himself. Well, in the world of internet politics, this is seen as a serious crime.
I don't want to talk about this whole conflict anymore, really, at all, ever. And I'm frankly also thinking about putting something that I need to discuss with Hassan, but I do feel like I'm probably going to pause Leftovers.
This clip followed a particular faction of fans calling Ethan genocidal towards Palestinians in response to his actions during the podcast episode.
Maybe I am genocidal against Palestinians for caring about this stuff. I must be. Here's this is the post that's getting lots of likes. I'm going to be calm. I think a lot of these people are brigading from other communities too, probably. Including, by the way, Hassan's Discord, which is not associated with him. He's not in there. He has nothing to do with it. But the people in there, it's at 550 upvotes. Okay, great. So 500, so there's lots of people coming here saying that I shouldn't be talking about this.
Ethan expresses his horror at these accusations, as well as that he felt used, like he was simply a vessel for espousing the exact same politics as Hassan, and that the audience was not there for his personality in the first place. This culminated in a discussion between Ethan and Hassan regarding the conflict, in which Ethan mentioned the things being said about him in Hassan's own chat. Hassan was asked, "Do you care?" and responded by trying to explain why those people are valid.
Do you care that your chat is calling me racist? Do you make any attempt to modify?
I have not looked at my chat.
Moderate that at all?
I have not looked at my chat at all, but you
I
have
just
to
opened it, but don't you have moderators? Do you care at all about what your audience says about me?
There's 32,000 people in here right now. The reason why people are saying that is because of the conflations that you made, Ethan.
People are saying rip leftovers. Yeah, probably.
Well, I guess this goes to show that no matter how bad H3 has been, Hassan is the villain of every story. I mean, he's just doing side quests at this point. Now this leads to one of the biggest criticisms that came from H3's original fans regarding his politics, which is that despite feeling bad that he's criticized for ridiculous things, they feel he has brought it onto himself by attracting an audience that thinks this way.
And I mean, in a way, I do feel bad for Ethan, but at the same time, he specifically courted this audience of fucking freaks.
When Ethan removed his podcast with Jordan Peterson and started to criticize him heavily, Peterson also predicted something similar would happen. Now, I'd like to move on to the conspiracy that H3H3 are more closely involved than most with YouTube themselves, and have used this to their advantage in past dramas. We're turning back the clock a bit to 2018. A video was released by a small commentary creator named Gokanaru titled The Death of H3H3 Productions, in which he criticizes Ethan at length for an inability to take criticism and perceived hypocrisy. At the time, Ethan responded indirectly to the video without watching it on the podcast, and seemingly admitted that much of the criticism was true.
I'm guilty of all of those things, and I'm not gonna quantify it or make excuses or anything.
I was honestly impressed when you just straight up just admitted that. I was very impressed.
This seemed to many to be a bright moment in a time which mostly consisted of negative attention surrounding the podcasters, and created a sense of optimism for the future. However, the video was eventually struck down by YouTube, and in 2020, after this occurred, Ethan and Hila reacted to a re-upload of it on the podcast, in an episode featuring a myriad of guests.
We are going to be responding in full to the notorious death of H3H3 Productions video made by Gokanaru. And by the way, we have call-ins today from PewDiePie, JonTron, William Osmond, Shoenice, and Jimmy Lee are all calling into the show today. It's a blockbuster.
One such guest, Shoenice, actually claimed to be the one who flagged the original Death of H3H3 Productions video down, due to the perception he had that Gokanaru was making it look like his kid killed H3H3. Shoenice was at the time a creator who made content centering around eating and drinking challenges, and was widely regarded as a bit of an unstable presence. In this podcast, he is asked what he told his YouTube rep when striking the video, at which point he seems to avoid the question, considering it's highly unrealistic he even had one in the first place.
Shu, what do you tell your YouTube rep when you report his videos?
This is usually just reporting and flagging just to get somebody's vid shut down. Never done it in my life. I hate doxers. I hate people that send a pizza to your house, the people that slot somebody. But no, this was more personal. And I tried to tell this dude, you know what I mean? He looks like some kind of a bird on a fence.
Shoenice would also later say that he did not in fact flag the video down at all, which completely calls into question why he was even featured on the podcast in the first place. It's entirely possible that he could have pretended he was involved in order to gain some attention, but many have also speculated that he was used as a scapegoat of sorts to prevent people from thinking Ethan was responsible. Other than the obvious evidence that this video was critical of H3H3 and mysteriously was struck down, with the person propped up by Ethan as the one responsible for the flagging seemingly admitted to lying about it, what makes this a real YouTube conspiracy? Well, as many have pointed out, H3H3 had several interactions with the at-the-time CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki. It is also true that the video was taken down due to a change in YouTube's terms of service that seemed to prohibit things that aligned very closely with what Gokanaru's video did. All of these things happened at a seemingly similar point in time, leading some, like Keemstar and other members of the commentary community, to speculate that Ethan was conspiring with Wojcicki to take down videos that were critical of him. It is worth noting that there is no proof regarding these allegations, and it would be impossible to find any without either party admitting directly to it. However, it does seem to be another reason people have criticized H3, and would be another potential instance of lying or subverting criticism. Ethan Klein has been open about suffering from generalized anxiety disorder and depression throughout his career, as well as Tourette's syndrome, to which he attributes his occasional tics. He reflects that earlier in his life, having and treating depression was somewhat stigmatized, and that he initially had the same stance, that antidepressants were a shameful thing and depression was pathetic.
Yeah, it was very stigma. It was like I said in our update video, it's not sexy to be depressed. It's like, it's pathetic. It just sounds pathetic.
However, as many people have probably already seen, he is now taking antidepressants.
My dick feels like a piece of wood.
And it, of course, is a positive thing that he sees mental health issues as serious and understandable parts of life. Many criticized him at earlier points for using depression as an excuse for making mistakes, while not seeking any treatment or ways to prevent these same mistakes in the future, though this point is clearly moot now. However, he has also claimed that depression is the reason that he stopped uploading on the H3H3 Productions channel, something that many doubted, as they wondered why he was able to continue making podcasts if this was the case.
I was just feeling like I literally could not make any more videos. I just hit a wall where it was gotten so bad that it was basically either stop making videos or disappear forever.
If you truly felt that way, you wouldn't have been making podcast videos. I mean, shit, Ethan, your live streams last for over an hour, so I don't really understand what you're trying to say.
He has also been criticized for making similar apology videos multiple times, using the same reasons while nothing seems to change.
So after 500 years, Ethan decided to upload again, but actually this one is a re-upload. We actually saw this video back in 2017. The only difference is they have different clothes on. It literally follows the same exact formula as the old video. All Ethan does is give a half-ass apology, talk about his depression, and show off his animal so people are less assertive on him.
Just to clarify, I personally think it is distasteful to imply that someone is lying about mental issues in order to gain sympathy and excuse their behavior. However, at the time, seeing as Ethan did not seem to be receiving treatment other than not making YouTube videos and making podcasts instead, some would see this as a precedent for Ethan to use these excuses. Also, it has been speculated many times that doing the podcast and many of the interactions Ethan has on it are harmful for his mental health as well, which makes this point even worse for both those who want the original content back and Ethan himself. Additionally, there were other criticisms, such as bringing their dog on screen to elicit sympathy from viewers, something that Ethan had criticized people for doing in the past. Using the same phrasing as a video 8 months prior despite nothing changing since then, and more that did not have to do with Ethan's mental health, but some still felt it meant that they did not take their audience seriously.
Oh, and for any of you upset by my opinions, what's this? Oh, it's my dog. Oh my god. He's so cute, even I forgot why I was mad.
And judging from their continued straying from their path, while implying that their old audience is immature or hateful, this resentment would only continue to grow over time. So why does all of this matter, and how did H3H3 become so reviled by audiences that once revered them as YouTube gods, fighting for the little guy and changing the platform for the better? Well, I think that one of the reasons they were able to gather such a loyal and large audience in the past was that the videos they reacted to were, for the vast majority of others, clearly scummy or cringy or both. And they had reactions that many members of the audience would likely share, but expressed in a comedic way. Additionally, the way the videos were filmed, especially in the older videos, with a very close-up shot of Ethan and with Hila chiming in at times, really created the feeling that the viewer was just one of them, reacting together to a cringe video that somehow went viral. They made fun of all types of people, never isolating any portion of their audience, made relatable statements, and told past stories that established themselves as people who really came from a hard past. They were humble, willing to make fun of themselves, and very funny, and when it came to important issues about the platform, they fought to establish an important precedent about fair use. They truly earned a spot as extremely influential and universally beloved YouTubers, and did an amazing job of establishing a perceived close relationship with audience members without even having to interact with them. Parasocial relationships are defined as one-sided relationships in which a person develops a strong sense of connection, intimacy, or familiarity with someone they don't know, most often celebrities or media personalities. And how could you not? The audience was shown the intimate details of Ethan and Hila's lives. They became familiar with them over a long period of time and connected with their same takes on cringy weirdos online. But at the same time, the videos were only 10 minutes or less, made on people who almost everybody would have the same opinion on. They weren't live depictions of what Ethan and Hila were like, and they included skits and comedic reactions over a short period of time. Whereas now we have podcasts on politics and serious topics that can span up to almost 4 hours of live content. Some have speculated that this was always who they really were, and that this is just the result of their true personalities and takes being exhibited on the podcast.
If you're one of those guys who constantly fills the comment section about how you hate H3H3 and how he changed and how the podcast is now so bad and you wish the old H3H3 would come back, bro, we need to have a heart-to-heart for a second. The podcast has been out for 4 years. If you don't enjoy it, it's probably time to find another fucking podcast. The God's honest truth is that making scripted videos is completely fucking different than making a 3-hour podcast. If you're the kind of guy who gently caresses the side of your computer monitor as you watch your favorite creator day in and day out, and you think you know them because they're so relatable, you probably don't. Fair warning, Ethan on the podcast is very likely who Ethan was the entire time you've been a fan of him. You just found out that there were various aspects of his character that you now don't like, and it's literally the definition of don't meet your heroes.
And while this certainly could be the case, it's easy to see why people might not believe it. I went into this video honestly feeling the same way, until I watched some old H3H3 videos trying to gather information about their backstory. And honestly, it was so genuine and humble and heartwarming. I find it very hard to believe that they haven't changed at all from that point to the point they are at now. However, there is definitely some validity to what Nicholas Deorio is saying in that clip. And the more negative concentration of their content could honestly be in response to the massive amounts of criticism and vitriol they've received for their videos no longer aligning with what their original audience wanted. But what they have been criticized for has evolved from just not making the same type of content anymore. They've become infamous for hypocrisy, inability to take criticism, and becoming shells of their former selves in the eyes of many. And this transformation has been personally painful for members of their original audience because of how genuine they seemed to be before. I think this is one of the main reasons why the internet turned so hard against H3H3, and why their transformation in the first place was such a big deal. The parasocial relationship which I and many of their viewers felt with them led to a sense of betrayal, and ultimately a painful separation. But I think it's also worth noting that if people cared so much about Ethan and Hila and are so invested in what they become, that means they always have a chance to quote-unquote redeem themselves and become YouTube legends again. Especially in light of recent videos, it's obvious that Ethan Klein is not as bad as some people make him out to be.
I mean, just think of everything that your least favorite YouTuber has done and multiply that by 10 and we have Ethan Klein. From exploiting...
So like... Ethan is 10 times worse than Austin Jones. Ethan is 10 times worse than Lion Maker. Ethan is 10 times worse than Logan Paul, and that's not even a joke! That's not even a joke, chat!
And this is easy to see when comparing him to others he's been involved with as well. Ethan has shown awareness at many times of why he is being criticized.
I'm not surprised that so many people have watched this podcast and been like, whoa, that's not the guy I thought he was. Or people who were making videos about like all the things I mentioned, because yeah, it is all in here.
And has not committed extremely serious crimes or done something that would prevent a comeback. Additionally, many members of his old audience still find things that he has said or laughed at to be funny in recent years. The problem was never with making the jokes or being edgy, it was only with doing those things while claiming to be above doing them. Ethan's reaction to the King of Nothing video and some other statements he has made recently, as well as the ending of Leftovers, has put him in a more relatable light for many, and in some ways it seems he is not taking himself quite as seriously lately.
You've lost Deorio.
Well, listen, Deorio, whatever has transpired against us, let us know now that we are, from this moment forward, friends.
Best friends.
A bridge that could never be torn down connects me to you, my friend.
I do not believe Ethan is a horrible person, and just as there has always been, there is great potential for him to grow and or undo some of the old quote-unquote wrongs that he has done to his old audience. And recently he has shown signs of getting closer to that change. Clearly still funny and capable of being a genuine person. And like I said, in my opinion, his old content still holds up. I genuinely hope that opinions of him and Hila continue to become more positive, or at least that they can make the content they want to without the stress of constant scrutiny. Because even if nothing changes, it's clear that that scrutiny isn't really productive for anyone at this point. So in conclusion, there's probably not much I could say about them that hasn't been said in the past, and I'm aware their transformation has been covered a multitude of times. I just wanted to gather as much information about their past and why they are so reviled in the present and put it into one video. Obviously, I didn't cover every one of their controversies and everything they had been criticized for, but that wasn't really the point. This was meant to explore what made their split from their old audience so painful, and why so many people feel the way they do about present-day H3 content. Ethan and Hila were YouTube legends, and will still remain, at least in my eyes, preserved in YouTube history as extremely influential. Nothing they do or say in the present can take that away, and though that just makes it more unbelievable to see how they are now viewed, there's nothing stopping people from viewing and appreciating that content from another era. It was interesting to explore this topic and everything that has happened, but I'm not going to let it diminish their old content in my eyes. And while I'm not a fan of their podcast, to those who have stuck around or become new fans since then, I wish you well, and I'm glad you've found someone who you can enjoy, and can be certain you're seeing the real and authentic versions of. I had fun writing this and reliving the past at certain points, and while I may not see it this way after recording and editing, I enjoy making these types of videos. Also, just as a last note, at the time of writing, I didn't really know about the King of Nothing video that covered a lot of these points, but like, horribly. And I didn't mean to oversaturate YouTube with old drama being retreaded for no reason. But if you made it this far, hopefully you didn't think that's what this was. I'll continue to make videos on things that are interesting to me, and I appreciate everyone who watched and anyone who sticks around. Thank you. And as always, make sure to like the video if you liked it, dislike the video if you disliked it, and leave a comment with your thoughts below, as well as any topics you'd like to see me cover in the future. And make sure to subscribe to join the Vape Nation. Alright, see ya.